Sure.
Do you think that's a concern? Is anybody going to watch live from home? Yeah, I don't know that there's anything we can do.
Right. I'm glad you mentioned that I have to share my screen because I would have done that same thing. I would have just gone through it. Hi, Reed. Oh, I'm on mute. Hi, Reed.
Hello.
How you doing?
Hi, everybody. Well, it looks like you're taking advantage of the remote meetings.
Well, yeah, sitting in my truck.
Oh, I thought you were in your fish house or something.
No, this was, my grandson made varsity hockey in Minnetonka,
Oh, congratulations.
and tonight we play Hated Edina.
Oh, yeah, can't miss that one.
So I'm sitting in the parking lot.
Gotcha. Well, I'm a Skipper alum myself, so I know how that goes.
Oh yeah, what year did you graduate?
94.
What happens if Greg doesn't show?
No, I'm nervous. We should have Greg and Phil.
Yep,
Okay.
it's gonna be fun. You know how much we love Edina.
Yeah, friendly rivalry.
Oh, there he is.
Yep.
And then having any decisions, so that.
No, but I was just wondering like how you get the agenda through.
Aaron, we waiting on anybody else?
Nope, we are good now.
Okay. My clock says 6:30.
Recording
want to
in
get started?
progress.
Yes, please.
I call the meeting to order. Director Smith, would you take the roll, please?
Sure. Chair Welch,
Here.
Commissioner Griesinger.
Commissioner Griesinger here.
Thank you. Commissioner Riggs.
Commissioner Riggs here.
I'll let Greg, or sorry, Reed.
Oh, okay, just three of us?
Yep.
All right. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I motion to approve the agenda.
Thanks, Stephanie. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Greg. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Motion by Commissioner Grissinger to approve the agenda, seconded by Commissioner Riggs. Community Director Smith, would you please call the roll vote?
Sure.
Roll call vote.
Chair Welch,
Aye.
Commissioner Griesinger, Commissioner Riggs.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right. And the next item is to approve the minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the December 16, 2021 Planning Commission minutes?
I'll motion.
All right, Commissioner Riggs. Can I have a second?
I second.
All right, Commissioner Griesinger. Any discussion? All right, seeing none. Motion by Commissioner Riggs to approve the December 16th, 2021 Planning Commission minutes, seconded by Commissioner Griesinger. Community Director Smith, would you please take the roll?
Sure. Chair Welch,
Aye.
Commissioner Griesinger,
Aye.
Commissioner Riggs.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Motion carries. New business. Carver County Community Development Agency project preview. Go ahead, Aaron.
Thank you.
And you are sharing your screen.
Okay, good. Alrighty, how's that look to everybody?
Good, I think.
Okay. As long as it's projecting this time. That's the thing I care most about.
Well, it's not presentation mode. It's got the slides, but I assume you don't care.
Let's see if we can change that. How's that?
There you go.
Okay, that should work. Alrighty, thank you. Chair and members of the commission. Tonight we're going to go over, like Reed said, the CDA project and introduction. So I want to start with introductions just so we know who is in the room tonight. So I am Erin Smith, the Community Development Director for the City of Carver. Allison, do you mind introducing yourself?
I'm Allison Strike. I'm the Deputy Director with the CDA.
Thank you. And Dan?
Dan Lannis, City Engineer, Carver.
Very good. So that will be the group that's presenting to you tonight. So first, I'm going to go over a history of the project, how we got to where we are today, some of the approvals that have been sought and approved at this point. Allison is then going to give a bit of an overview of the CDA and a project they're working on. And Dan is going to be able to provide some information about utilities, not only for this building, but also the area around the site, as well as provide some question and answer at the end, should you have some questions for him. So the project that we're talking about tonight, it's at 1591 Hartwell Drive, so it's directly south of Carver Crossing. If you look at the map on the left, you'll see we are directly south of Carver Elementary, south of Carver Station. We're east of Copper Hills and north of Oak Tree, which is the Lennar project. That's just wrapping up construction. So the project is directly off of Jonathan Carver Parkway, and we'll talk a little bit about this lot as well as Carver Crossing and the surrounding property. So I want to be pretty clear tonight, we are not looking for any approvals. The CDA does not have an active application in with the city. We do anticipate in the next few months or the next year, we will have an application, but we want everyone to have the same base knowledge of what the project is, what we know to date, and where we're going moving forward. It's been, I suspect some of you remember if you lived in Carver for a while, approvals for the first building, so just wanting to catch everyone up. I know there's a lot of new residents both in town and also on the commission, so hoping to give everyone the same shared amount of information. So this project, it actually began in 2010, so thinking back about 12 years. So throughout this presentation, CDA is the Community Development Agency, so the agency that Allison works for. I know she has a couple slides talking a little bit about the work that they do. So throughout the presentation, if you see CDA, it's the Carver County Community Development Agency. So in 2010, the group purchased 36 acres of property at the corner of Jonathan Carver Parkway and Ironwood Drive. And at that time, the CDA proposed development of CDA offices, Carver City Hall, 60 units of multifamily housing. At that time, the project did not move forward. In 2012, the CDA came forward with another project, which was the concept plan for multifamily housing, which would become Carver Crossing. It also included single-family housing, which would become phase 1 of Copper Hills, and the park and ride facility, which would become Carver Station. So that same project moved through approval process. In 2013, the CDA applied for a planned residential development, or a PRD, which we call it at the Planning Commission level, for Copper Hills and Carver Crossing. So if you think about a PRD, one way that we can use it is that if there's a mix of housing types, so obviously Copper Hills and Carver Crossing are two different housing types. One is single family, one is multifamily, so the use of the PRD was required there to have both run simultaneously through the approval process. In 2013, the Carver Station property was sold to the city, so it's the Southwest Transit Station that we know today. The city currently owns the property, continues to operate the transit station with a grant from the Met Council. So that was in 2013. The PRD was obviously approved because Copper Hills and the Carver Crossing are constructed today. So at that point, the Copper Hills were sold to a national builder called Mattamy. Mattamy then sold to MI. So MI is doing work in town still. So Mattamy to MI was the end builder for Copper Hills. And there were two building pads that were platted for future multifamily buildings. So the first one became Carver Crossing. The second is the lot that we're talking about today. In 2014, the CDA then sold 2.1 acres for the Carver Crossing development. So the CDA does not own or operate the Carver Crossing building. Ron Clark was the developer in construction for the property, and now the building is managed by Stephen Scott. So these two properties are a little bit different that way, where this project will be constructed and owned by the CDA, where the first building was developed by a private company called Ron Clark, and then Stephen Scott is the management. So let's talk a little bit about that PRD and what it means for this site as well as the rest of the area. So we all know that our comprehensive plan calls for density ranges. So for R2 at the time, the units per acre required was 4 to 8. So the first 25.48 acres were slated for residential development, which was Copper Hills and Carver Crossing. So if you do the math between that, it called for 102 to 203 units for the range for that 4 to 8 units per acre. So you take 25 times 4, 24, 25 times 8, and that's where you get that range. So phase 1 of Copper Hills took out 47 of those units. Outlot A, which is 1591 Hartwell Drive, or the empty property we're talking about today, took an additional 2 acres, added it to that number, so the range increased to 109 to 218. So in the preliminary plat resolution approving Copper Hills and Carver Crossing, you'll see on the screen it's very deliberate about the number of units that are allowed with a second building. So the first building, Carver Crossing, is 68 multi-family dwelling units, which is in that approval. And then if you continue reading, it says, if approved, the proposed Outlot A, the project we're talking about today, will have between 0 and 103 additional housing units to be constructed within the density limits. So the work that was done in 2015 was really prescriptive of the project that we could do in the future, setting that number of units. So on the screen is the entire area. So the area in checked yellow was the phase 1 of Copper Hills, the Carver Crossing building, and Carver Station. So Carver Station is in blue, it's zoned public or institutional, and then Copper Hills and the Carver Crossing building both sit in R2. The green P is a park, that's Olson Park, which is in Copper Hills. So the plat for the project, this one, so Outlot A on this one is Carver Station. Outlot B is the 2 remaining outlots. So you'll see that the project has already been platted. So there are drainage and utility easements that allow for parking. So you'll see when Allison has some pictures of the upcoming project, the area that's in drainage and utility easement can be used for parking in the future. So at the time of development of Copper Hills Phase 1 and the Carver Crossing building, the mechanics of this building were set in place. Dan, I was supposed to call on you after my 6th slide. I'm on slide like 10 now. I'm so sorry.
You're doing such a good job at rolling. I didn't want to interrupt you.
Okay, I'm going to keep rolling. I'm going to call on you at the end if that's okay.
I can answer questions.
Okay, sounds good. So Dan was supposed to talk about utilities long ago. I'll get to him in a second. So in 2016, Carver Crossing was constructed and the second building was held in Outlot. So 1591 continues to be held in Outlot today. In 2019, I think a couple of you were on the commission at that point. The CDA had an application come forward for a concept plan for a second building. We held an open house at Carver Crossing in 2019, just inviting members of the public to come, ask questions, learn a little bit more about the project. Unfortunately, obviously in 2019, that project did not move forward. Then it brings us closer to present day today. So in 2021, the CDA received $1 million from the county via ARPA funds, which is the COVID relief program. And in 2022, again, we're anticipating project application. So nothing on the table tonight, not looking for any approval, just looking to get you all on the same page of some of the history and then the project as we move forward. So Dan, I'm going to call on you now. I'll get you a map up. Sorry that I totally skipped you. So Dan, do you mind talking a little bit about the infrastructure in this area?
Yeah, I mean, this has been subject to planning going back many years, and so the comprehensive planning for this has definitely incorporated, full development, the densities that we're talking about. Aaron is really asking me is there any concerns? Do we see any capacity issues? And not only based on prior studies, but more current studies that have looked at the city's sewer and water capacity here. We have a robust amount of capacity to handle this type of development. So the ultimate summary is I don't see any concerns with the planned uses.
Thank you. And again, Dan will be available at the end of the presentation if you have more questions about utilities. Okay, so let's talk through some important steps about this project that you'll want to remember tonight and also moving forward. So the comprehensive plan calls for medium-density residential. This project fits within that definition. This project also brings up the density requirement of Copper Hills, so it balances that project out. This project has already been rezoned to R2 with a planned residential development overlay, so that is slated correctly. This project could move forward with that zoning. And again, the building pad was platted with a Carver Crossing building. So a lot of the planning work that we typically see, the concept plan, the rezoning, the preliminary plat, those stages have all been completed to this point. So wanting to get a good understanding of where we are today and then what we'll need to do moving forward. So we'll do, I believe, a final plat of the project and then a site plan and building material review at the Planning Commission level. So we'll take a look at that. Obviously, they'll then need to apply for things like a building permit. So our inspections team will do a review, fire department will do a review. All of that information can be shared with the Planning Commission as we continue to move forward as well. So, Allison, I'm going to turn it over to you. I think I made you a co-host if you want to run the PowerPoint. Otherwise, let me know when you need the slide changed.
Okay. Doesn't seem to be moving, so I'll let you know.
Okay, sounds good.
Before I forget, I want to make a quick clarification on the ARPA money from the county. And you'll understand as I start to explain this project, but this project actually has $2 million from the county of ARPA money. And it's sort of $1 million sort of for each, and that'll make more sense as we move on to the next slides. So Chair and members, thanks for having me. So the CDA provides affordable housing opportunities and we foster community and economic development. We currently own and manage just shy of 700 units of affordable housing throughout the county. You can go to the next slide. So the concept we have for this project, as Aaron mentioned, we have approval for 103 units. It's two different uses. So we're planning on 60 units of general occupancy in what we are referring to as Carver Place. And then 43 units of what we're referring to as Carver Oak Senior, so it's 43 senior connected by shared common space. So in our previous funding application, as Aaron mentioned, in 2019, we did apply to Minnesota Housing to get both this entire project funded. Our previous application included 4 units of high priority homeless and 4 units of people with disabilities. Those 8 units are subsidized to help extremely low income households, and they all had supportive services with them. And we were awarded 8 project-based vouchers through Metro HRA. And project-based vouchers, again, it just targets a little bit lower income of a household and it helps to subsidize the rent. The total development cost at the time, so mind you, this was in 2020, this number is obviously going to go up. At the time we submitted that application was just a little over $16 million. And then some of the funding options we talked to the county about when we were working on the ARPA money was either county GO bonds or a 9% low-income housing tax credit. At this point, we are anticipating submitting a 9% tax credit application to Minnesota Housing this year, and those applications are due June or July. And again, the county did award us $1 million of ARPA funds towards Carver Place, and you can go to the next slide. This is just a rendering of what the building could look like from the outside. This was submitted to Minnesota Housing in 2019 with our funding application. And the next slide. And then when we submitted in 2019, Carver Oak Senior, again, 43 units of affordable, 55 and better housing. Our previous funding application, we did include 13 units of public housing to help subsidize lower income seniors. And in 2020, at the time, the development cost of the project was just over $12 million. And in talking with the county, some of the funding options were county GO bonds, 4% low-income housing tax credits, and housing infrastructure bonds. And at this time, we will be seeking housing infrastructure bonds, but HIB, as they're called, or the 4%, that's what we'll be submitting to Minnesota Housing this year. And again, the county gave us $1 million of ARPA money towards Carver Oak Senior. You can go to the next slide. That's just an overview of the site. And then the next slide should be a little bit closer. That gives you some of the idea of what Aaron was talking about with the parking and kind of the cross use of, there's the existing fire lane, I believe right now is what it's in place for with Carver Crossing. So it just shows what the layout of our building would look like. Any questions?
Stephanie or Greg, if you guys want to go first, I have a couple. No? Okay. So does the CDA currently have any other properties that it owns and manages in Carver?
We own and manage Bluff Creek Apartments.
Okay.
That's 18 units.
Okay. And then
no, I was just gonna say that's our only building in the city of Carver.
okay. And then from it's more for Aaron, I guess. The 103 unit maximum that is fixed in stone, right? If they wanted more than that, they'd have to like rezone and get a new city council thing. Okay.
Correct.
And then okay. And then the only thing I guess I would, it's early, but at the open house, I know there were some residents from the Copper Hills neighborhood that were almost right just south of the existing property. These, I know you guys do a good job. Just be cognizant of the views and trees and berm and that kind of stuff, as I recall. But other than that, it looks great. I mean, I think it's definitely needs some more affordable housing, and I think it really, hopefully, this one goes forward. So, yeah, that's all I have.
Thank you.
I've gotten a little bit of feedback from residents in Oak Tree this past week, just with our packet going out, knowing that this project is coming. So Allison and I will talk through some of the details. A couple of the requests are just some additional landscaping, and then potentially screening the area of parking that the building that is essentially east of the building. So to eliminate headlights going into people's backyards, which I think we could accomplish either with a fence or some landscaping, but something Allison and I can work through as we start to get to know this project a little bit more.
Erin, did you say that you will share with us the research that's done by the fire department and other services? I guess one of my concerns is bringing in this many new units. I assume we will look at how that's going to affect the fire department, the school, so on and so forth, correct?
Yes. So typically that happens at the time of building permit, but I think with a project this large, I could absolutely ask Chief Turnbow to do an analysis of this building just to give us an idea of how many calls they might anticipate and their capacity for it. That's a really good point to get that before this group, before it goes through for full approval. But the fire department reviews things like the parking lot to make sure that their apparatuses can turn in the parking lot correctly. So definitely a step that I can share some more information about.
All right, talking as the wife of a firefighter, I appreciate that very much.
No problem. Also a wife of a firefighter, so I know where you're coming from.
Third question, when it comes to the utilities, I guess lighting being maybe one of the more important ones, but on Hartwell Drive there, the west side, there currently already is a trail, and based on the rendering that's shown on the screen right now, looks like another added trail on the east side of Hartwell, but the entire part of Hartwell Drive there, there's no light, street lights or anything at all. I think there is one light on the corner, the northeast corner there of Hartwell and Copper Hills Drive. There's one little teeny tiny light, street light there. Would any, Dan, would there be any more additional lighting for streets to kind of light the trail there and around that property?
I'd have to give a little bit of thought to that. I mean, there's only so much authority we would have on the street side of this here, given that their work is on a lot. So, Aaron, I guess we'd have to collaborate on how we'd want to attack the lighting side of this, because, again, the street's there and this is work on their lot. So we'll have to consider that further, but it's a fair point to be made. I can't make any guarantees about what could or couldn't be done on that right now approve that specific development, other than to note the comment.
Actually, I had one more thing. You know, I guess the initial work on the utilities and the unit size, that was 2010, 2012, right? So it's obviously quite a bit. 9 years later, lots have changed. Do you think most of that analysis is pretty solid, or do you have a handle on how much of it you're going to need to re-update? Just, you know, I guess, I don't know, did you guys plan for the Copper Hills building out as much as it did, and that kind of just street traffic, or maybe other, you know, other analysis that may want to get reconsidered, considering it's, you know, 9 years, 10 years later?
Yeah, I'm not saying that we wouldn't look at it. But when you're doing the comprehensive plan for sewer and water, you're effectively looking at overall densities for an area, and so we'd have to have a gross bust in what was assumed 10 years ago, to the degree of, you know, double or something to that nature, where I'd start to say, well, you know, we've changed this much. I'm not seeing that type of trending. So for the most part, you're talking about, are the overall densities in this entire land area coming in about in the magnitude of what we would have expected for a pipe between an 8 and a 10 inch. And I'm just saying this is not going to rock the boat.
Okay, good.
Would have previously been assumed, but we will be looking at it to, you know, verify all the details. So.
Okay, and then I know we did a traffic study on oh man, I can't keep track anymore, on the bigger development that we just did phase 1 last month.
Timber Creek.
Did we was there a traffic study done for the initial, you know, in 2000, I want to say 2010 again, but I'm not sure that's the right date, for the whole development? Do we think that has that kind of matched maybe our growth expectations, and things seem like, Dan said, generally within the ballpark? Or
Aaron, did you want to take that one, or there's been various studies.
Sure.
I haven't been around for all.
Okay, yeah, no, I don't know narratives from that many either.
The gist of it is you have studies that were done for this particular area, and these general uses back in 13.
Okay,
Chatted about that a little bit, but then you've got more recent studies that were done with Timber Creek, and more recent studies that were done and also with JCP, all of which.
Oh, that's true.
It's the same. It's the same thing. They take a look at undeveloped land, and they look at the traffic generated from the intended uses, and then they take what's out there today, and they put it all together, and they say, did the system break?
Okay, good.
Anything on the system going to break? And again, because these are the intended uses, it's pretty well set up that we know about what to expect from this type of development.
Size. Okay, well, that makes sense. Yeah, okay. All right, that's it. I think I'm done. So, anyone else before we move on? Okay, all right. Does anyone have any updates or communications they'd like to share? Aaron, think we're still having a meeting next month as well? I think you had sent out an email.
Yes. So next month I'm anticipating Brookview, which is the project just south of Meadows at Spring Creek, to go through preliminary plat approval.
Okay. Yep, I think that's it. I think we're ready to adjourn. I have a motion to adjourn.
A motion.
All right, thanks, Greg. Can I have a second?
Commissioner Griesinger seconds.
All right, thanks, Stephanie. All right. Motion by Commissioner Riggs to adjourn, seconded by Commissioner Griesinger. Community Development Director Smith, can you call the roll?
Sure. Chair Welch.
Aye.
Commissioner Griesinger. Aye. Commissioner Riggs.
Aye.
Hi, Phil.
Hey.
I see you now as owner.
Okay. Did you get to catch any of the meeting? We just adjourned, so.
You're on mute, Phil.
You're muted. All right, well, motion passes. We're adjourned. See everybody next month.
Thanks, Reed.
Yeah, bye-bye.